financial markets, cryptocurrency, gold and silver, world news.
Fair to say you simply flooded the system with money.
Yes, we did. That's another way to think about it. We did.
Where does it come from? Do you just print it?
We print it digitally, and we do that by buying treasury bills. That actually increases the money supply.
Financial turmoil explained.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show on this Monday, the 6th of June, 2022. Thank you for tuning in. I'm glad to have you guys here. Let's get started right away, and we're going to take a look at an article in the New York Times. We're going to open the charts right here. You want to buy meat in this economy? Question mark. It says, the foods that go into America's bag lunches and into dinner plates cost about 10.8% more today than they did this time last year. But inflation has not struck every section of the grocery store at the same rate. The price of animal products is surging. Meat, poultry, fish, eggs now cost 14.3% more than they did a year ago. For a country that consumes about 274 pounds of meat per person per year, that has been particularly bruising. It's a bruising economic reality, they say here. And the current rate of food inflation holds, and Americans don't change their meat consumption habits, they will spend roughly $20 billion more on meat, poultry, fish, eggs over the course of the next year than they did in 2020. Inflation has the potential to drive a welcome change for the planet if Americans think differently about the way they eat. Well, you know what I'm reading here? It sounds like they approve of this inflation. Now, honest to goodness, this article sounds like they actually approve of it. To me, I mean, what am I missing here? Guys, what am I missing? It sounds like they're almost like cheering it on, for crying out loud. It says inflation has the potential to drive a welcome change. So, what are they saying? Inflation's a good thing? It says if Americans think differently about the way they eat. While hunger and food insecurity are a very real problem in the United States and globally, middle and upper class Americans still have more choices at the grocery store than perhaps any food shoppers in history. Climate change has motivated some to eat less resource-intensive meat and more vegetables, grain, and legumes. But this movement has not reached the scale necessary to bring needed change yet. What's that all about? Just the way it's worded here, it almost sounds like they're in charge. That's almost what it sounds like. It sounds like, do they know something we don't know here? What's going on here? I mean, okay, let's read that again. Climate change has motivated some to eat less resource-intensive meat and more vegetables, grains, and legumes. But this movement has not reached the scale. Movement. It's a movement. I gotta read this again. Climate change has motivated some to eat less resource-intensive meat and more vegetables, grains, and legumes. Yes, it has. Because they can't afford to eat anything else. Really, what they're eating is pasta, mostly. Probably about the only thing that they can afford, and the price on that's going to go up pretty soon. But this movement has not reached the scale necessary to bring needed change yet. What, do they want it to get worse? Sounds like they're rooting for it, cheering for it. The inflation that's hurting all the rest of us out here. I mean, it's just... Do they realize what it's like to have an empty stomach? Whoever wrote this, do they realize what it feels like to have an empty stomach? To not have enough money to buy anything except spaghetti? Spaghetti again. Oh no, not spaghetti again. And then the next day, spaghetti again. And oh, we're going to have a change today. Oh, yippee, and the kids are all dancing because we're going to have craft dinner. You know, I mean, you're not going to have as healthy people out there, you know, as people who are receiving a diet that's got adequate protein, a diet that's got adequate B vitamins, a diet that's got things like fish that has the essential fatty acids. You know, I mean, this is a diet. These diets, you know, are diets that lead to things like things we haven't seen before for a long time. Things like rickets, you know, and it's going to make a comeback. Things like that, you know. It says the price of fruits and vegetables has increased 7.8% over last year, roughly half of that of meat and poultry, a bit behind dairy, which has increased by 9.1%. The 2021 study in Nature found that animal products produce greenhouse gases at twice the rate of foods from the planet. We should be paying animal products. See, animal products would include animals as well. Okay, what am I missing here? Okay, a 2021 study in Nature found that animal products produce greenhouse gases at twice the rate of food from plants. We should be paying attention to every ton of carbon dioxide that goes into the atmosphere, at the same way that shoppers are watching the cost of every addition to their grocery carts. You know, okay, I'm not for greenhouse gases. No, I'm not for greenhouse gases, you know, going into the atmosphere. But I'm not obsessed with it. I'm not like, oh, we got a herd of deer out here that's living in the woods. We need to remove that herd of deer because every time they breathe, they're producing greenhouse gases, carbon emissions. Or let's go into the wilderness and just totally obsessed with this. You know, I'm not totally obsessed with it. But at the same time, I mean, I'm a reasonable person. I don't like to see a giant smokestack belching up tons of emissions into the atmosphere. I don't like to see that. But at the same time, I'm not some sort of a person that's going nuts about these things and panicking. You know, running around lighting my hair on fire because there's a bit of extra of this gas or that gas. We're all living under this biodome together. And we all have to breathe the same air. And what I don't like, there's things I don't like that's far more important, and they're even missing, is look how many people out there pull their car up to the curb. And they just sit there and they let it idle. Do you know how much greenhouse gas is coming out that exhaust pipe while they're just sitting there letting it idle and they're not going anywhere? They're just sitting there and the car's going and they're just sitting there running the air conditioner or whatever, not going anywhere. Instead of turning the car off. In those 5 minutes that they sit there, if you were to catch all the greenhouse gas that comes out of that car, that exhaust pipe, it would be equal to a whole truckload of steaks. Seriously. So, there should be an effort out there, really, seriously, to stop people from idling their cars, just sitting there and idling their cars, because they can produce enough gas to fill a whole stadium with greenhouse gas in 5 minutes of idling a car. The internal combustion engine, you know, is a tremendous greenhouse gas producer of these bad gases, but there's no simple solution right now at this point in time, because if we convert all the cars over to electric, the grid can't support it. First off, there's an old saying, don't put the cart ahead of the horse. What you need to do is you need to get a tough grid, a grid that's made the transition to where it's able to support charging thousands and thousands of EV cars. You know, electric cars. You need to have your grid first. You need to do your grid first, not do the cars first. See, they got it in reverse. What they're doing is they haven't done anything with the grid for ages. The grid's got infrastructure decay, absolutely, our power grid. They haven't fully made this conversion. What they're doing is they're trying to put the cart in front of the horse. Okay, if we eat often, what we eat is often cast in moral terms, whether that is a diet culture, erroneous claims that willpower or is a primary factor that influences body size, or vegetarians arguing that eating animals is murder. Americans' actual diets, so, tend to be dedicated by financial rather than electrical considerations. One recent survey of over 3,500 consumers found that while environmental concerns and animal rights would not persuade many shoppers to purchase meat substitutes more often, lower prices could. Inflation resulting from the cost of fuel and feed coupled with supply chain slowdowns may make meat substitutes more affordable, reliable, and traditional factory farmed meats locally raised more sustainable. I know what they're doing. This movement of meat that's not meat, really. But even our meat supply, they're doing things to it like they take your meat, they'll cut all the meat up, they'll put it inside a machine, then they'll inject water into it under high pressure. They also put dyes and stuff in it and things to make it red, make it look red when it's really not red. They do all sorts of stuff to us now. These things that they're doing nowadays should be illegal, things that they're doing, really. They've let them get away with it now, and it's become standard practice. And here's another thing I wanted to point out. I know where they're going with this. They want to feed us bugs. Seriously, that's where they're going with all this. They really want to feed us bugs. And seaweed. Bugs and seaweed. Seriously. These diseases that have been gone, we think have been long gone in the past, are going to come back with a vengeance. Anyway, talking about something else here. I'm going to put it on this pretty picture here for a minute while I talk about something else. I'm going to talk about a human stampede. We are actually headed toward the right conditions. If you get conditions just right, a funnel cloud or a tornado, a lot of people have never seen one. And when they see one, they're like, ooh and ah, look, it's a tornado. I've never seen one before. It's a tornado. Wow, look at that. Oh my goodness, it's touching down. Oh, they're all excited because they've never seen one before. But you got to have conditions just right in order to get a tornado to happen. It's got to be just right conditions. We are getting just the right conditions right now for something I'm going to call a human stampede. You see, you observe this in nature everywhere. You go to the aquarium, maybe a big city, maybe a city you live in's got a big aquarium, and you look behind the glass and you see this big school of fish. Well, sometimes you don't even have to go to a big aquarium. Sometimes people have a little tiny school of fish inside their aquarium at home, But anyway, what I'm trying to say is you see all the fish swim this way, and then you'll see all the fish swim that way. All like they got one mind, And it's the same way with animals, like if you go to a big herd of cattle, it's like they all got one mind, and they'll do something called, it's very unusual, it's called a stampede. Well, it's very similar to these one-cell objects. Sometimes you have these little amoebas and stuff that are like, they're a little tiny protoplankton or something, and if you deliver electric shock to them, it goes through the whole system. See, your whole body is made up of individual units, individual cells in your body. But if somebody sticks you in the foot with a pin, you're gonna suddenly jolt. It's a jolt. It's like electricity going through you. That's like all the cells in your body stampeding. It's the same way with a big herd of cattle. They'll all stampede at once. There's an interconnectedness here between humanity that can't be seen. And it can't be observed. Science cannot observe it. So science does not believe in the things they can't observe. Did you know that they would not believe in the wind on this planet if it didn't blow? If it had never blown in history, if there had never been a wind in history ever, they wouldn't believe in wind. They only believe in observable things, not the things they can't observe. This is something that has never been observed before, but I know it's true and it's real. A human stampede. A stampede of all the people on Earth. If you get them frightened enough. This is the thing. You have to really frighten them, make them think that they're going to die or expire. And they get scared enough, and they get repulsed enough, and they get angry enough, and all these emotions come into play enough amongst the general population, they will stampede. And we're getting to the point now where there's getting to be more and more people out there who are frightened. And so you say, well, Glenn, what would be something that could tip them over the edge and make them stampede? Just like in the tornado forms, certain conditions have to be right in the atmosphere, and everything has to be just so for a tornado to form. That's why we don't see them all the time, thank goodness, because it has to be just the right conditions for a tornado to form. And it's the same way with this. We've never seen this before because conditions have never been right for it to occur. But now, if we were to see nuclear weapons being used, they've built up fear over these things for, gosh knows, all the time I've been alive. They've done nuclear drills. They've told us how the Earth is going to all be destroyed and we'll all die and everything else. They've conditioned us for decades and decades and decades. They've conditioned us to be very frightened of a mushroom cloud going off. If we see that happen, it could cause a stampede. The fear that could come off of that around the world could cause a stampede. Another thing that could cause it is if we see an awful lot of people dying because of food shortages. Could cause a stampede, being as it's linked. That alone probably wouldn't cause a stampede, but link that with other extenuating factors like people just can't make ends meet anymore. And the pressures of life where they just can't support their families or feed their kids. The pressures of life could cause a stampede. So what does a stampede look like? You don't want to know. They could tear the system apart with their bare hands. That's what a stampede could look like. And it's something we've never seen before. But it's when humanity out there all of a sudden just basically panics because they feel like they're completely cornered and no way out. And it's these fool politicians out there who are following, they got their own agendas and things they're following that could lead us to this point. Let's get in there and take a look at the silver price today, which is shooting up. I know you guys like to see silver shooting up, and I like to see it shooting up too. $22.50. It's up 60 cents. That's a nice day for silver right there. All I can say is about time with all this inflation occurring out there and everything else. It's making silver so cheap that they'll start plating cars and stuff, and plating dashboards and everything with silver, plating bumpers with silver. If it continues on like this, silver plating's great. They can do an it's just it was cost prohibitive until now. Now they're getting the price. Everything else is going up in price so high. Now it's getting so an ounce of silver's been held down so long. It's like, just keep it up, boys. And we'll be paving our driveways with silver because it'll be cheaper than asphalt. He's holding the price down. And the price of asphalt going up. Gold today, $18.53, up $2.30. Of course, there's something wrong with that because you're never going to be able to pave your driveway with silver. There's not enough silver out there. This is the thing, And this is the thing that's going to stop this. This tomfoolery they're doing to support the dollar, keeping gold and silver suppressed. Gold's at $18.53 today. Cryptocurrency, it's doing rather well today. It's popped up a little bit. It's at $12.90. Let me just refresh the page. $12.91. So it gained $1 billion since I refreshed the page. 31,417. So it's back up above 30,000 again. Let's take a look now at the Dow Jones. The Dow Jones is up today. 276 points up. 282. This could be a dead cat bounce right here, and this is what I'm thinking in my mind right here. It's just got all the chart looks of a dead cat bounce right now, We got more downside to this market. we're going to be bearish until the Fed quits being hawkish. Until they stop being hawkish, we're going to be bearish on this market. And yes, it's going to go up in a saw blade, up and down in a saw blade fashion. That's what it does, you know. If you look at the market all the way through history, look back here. It's always up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. It's like it's marching, you know. And that's what it's doing right here on its way down. It's going up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. But that trend's going to be downwards until the Fed stops being bearish. And the Fed's not going to stop being bearish until this market gets down to a certain point where they say, hey, we can't let it go any further. And I'm figuring it's probably around 25,000, you know, or maybe 26 or something like that, 27. Once it goes down below 30,000, that's when they're going to start to haul their horns in. You'll start to hear the way they talk won't be so bearish. It won't be so hawkish. They'll start with talk. That's how they'll start, and then they'll cancel their programs. They'll cancel their quantitative tightening. They'll cancel their interest rate hikes. You know, and things will start to level out a little bit, and then we're going to look at the market turn back around again the other way. You know, if you can buy at that bottom though, and I've been telling you guys for a while now. See. For the longest time, I was the only guy telling you about this turn that the Fed's going to make. How things are going to go down. I was telling you guys so far in advance. You guys know on this channel I was telling you so far in advance. And I needed to tell you guys over and over and over again. After a while, you guys started to say, oh, well, Glenn, you're talking about the same thing over and over again. Well, now I don't need to talk about it so much. Because I hear it. I hear all these other guys saying it now. Exact same thing I was saying. Way back like a year before them, you know, and now I hear them all saying the same thing, you know, so I don't need to talk about it so much anymore because everybody's saying it. Now the Fed's going to turn around on this. Yeah, they are. But what's going to happen after that, after the Fed turns around? Well, I'm going to elaborate on it. Not right on this show, though, because this show's getting kind of long. But let's just say all hell's going to break loose. Let's just say that, okay? We'll just leave it at that. All hell's going to break loose. Because, you know, I mean... Anyway, let's move on. Let's take a look at oil today. It's oil's pretty much staying the same. It's at $118.84. Move index today. Now, this is what the Fed watches. And down means everything's good. It's all good when it goes down. When it goes up, that's when things get bad. And the Fed watches this. And this is another thing that they're not going to start to turn on this and change direction, the Fed, until this thing starts to go up really high. And right now it's down low. So it's green light for the Fed to go with their tightening right now. Because this is your credit markets, and credit markets are good. That's an all good green signal for them to move ahead. They also got another green signal. The market's staying above 30,000 on the Dow. That's a green signal, green light. They got green lights right now, and that's why they're continuing. And they told you they're data dependent. They're going to continue as long as they got a green light to continue. As soon as the light turns red, they're going to stop. But they're not going to stop until the light turns red. And by the time they do that, they'll have wrecked the economy. That's why I say all hell's going to break out, but there's a lot more to it than that even. So I'm going to talk about that probably in a show really soon. Okay, let's take a look at the bonds and rates today. Seeing rise in yields, 2.97 on the 10-year and 3.14 on the 30-year. And now take a look at the dollar index to finish the show at 102.09. Thank you guys for listening to my show. Like and subscribe. And we'll catch you guys in the very next episode. You guys have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.